I was coming down from a massive LSD trip where I'd had experienced the ego death, merged into the one. And guess what? My life changed after that.
What would happen if we just told the truth?
Welcome to Truth Works, where we dig into the nitty-gritty of leadership and work.
And what needs to change. I'm Jessica Neal.
And I'm Patty McCord.
Our journey together started in HR, but trust us, it's evolved into something wild, honest, and well, a bit rebellious.
So throw out the handbook. We're here to redefine rules to work for us, not against us.
Let's dive into another episode. Today, we have John Mackey, the former CEO of Whole Foods, has a new book coming out called The Whole Story, and the founder of a new company called Love Life, which we're going to hear all about. John, I have to tell you, I kind of feel, well, one, I'm very excited to meet you today, but I kind of feel like I know you a little bit because we used to talk about you at Netflix quite a bit because you were, I think, one of the first, or if the first, to do sort of open compensation. And you did that. You were transparent with employees at Whole Foods about compensation. We strived to do that. I don't think we nailed it maybe as well as you did. It got a little complicated at Netflix, but we admired what you did. And you were a different kind of leader, a different kind of CEO. And I think that's a rare thing to find. And so I'm so excited to finally meet you.
Well, Jess, it's good to meet you as well. And I'm a great admirer of Netflix. And I did get to meet Reed Hastings one time and swap some emails with him. A very interesting guy.
Well, we both know him well, so we could tell you the down and dirty, but we won't in this podcast. I wrote a book too about the Netflix culture. And what I wanted to start out with was I just had my 70th birthday too. And I know you're coming up on yours. And so
I'm Patty, I'm older than you.
So. Oh, you are? Did you do it last August?
Yes. Correct.
Oh, well.
So respect your elders.
I was going to say, well, I can learn from the wise old guy. But when I was getting ready for today, I thought, God, would I have the energy to do a startup now? And what if, I think it might be a good way to start, like knowing what you know, having the wisdom that you have. And I like to think of my crappy experiences as I chalk them up to wisdom now. Like all the dumb shit that I did through my career. That's my intro to you. We also talked about how we all have a lot of Texas experience. So feel free to throw in, bless your heart, any old time you want. So to start off with, why the book? Why now?
I think in a lot of ways, it's my final gift to Whole Foods and to the team members there. It's the longest opportunity, best opportunity I'll have to influence them going forward. Right? So when you create a company, when you co-found a company like Whole Foods, it's like your baby and you watch it grow up, but then it is its own entity, right? It's not you. And a lot of entrepreneurs have trouble making that distinction between that the child has its own destiny and its own set of values, and you might have helped nurture it and help it grow, but ultimately it goes on without the parents, and parents aren't there for the whole journey. And that's gives closure on Whole Foods Market. And for me personally, but also then the team members that come in, I dedicated the book to all team members, past, present, and future team members, because we did this together.
Yeah.
And so this is a story, and I wanted them to have that story.
I'm similar to you. I started at Netflix when we were 40-something people. And what's been fascinating to me looking back over time is all the different teams, right? The startup team, the scaling team, for us, the transition team from DVD to streaming. Jessica came over when Netflix became a original content producer globally, right? So big changes. So tell me about the different teams over the years at Whole Foods and sort of how your leadership's approach might have changed.
So Whole Foods is different than, it's evolved rapidly, and it's changed a lot since Amazon bought it. And it's changed a lot since I left the company a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
But the vision that we had very early on was that we had every store would be organized into teams, and the teams would be empowered and self-managing. So you'd have a produce team, a grocery team, a meat team, a seafood team, a specialty team, which had cheese and coffee and chocolate, prepared foods team, bakery team, customer service team that would do the checkouts and serve customers at the front. And then those teams would be, then we organized into regions. And there'd be a store team leader that would be the leader of the entire store team. And there'd be team leaders leading each one of those teams. And then the teams were interlocking because the store team leader would then be a member of the regional team, and the regional president would be a member of the global team. So we had interlocking teams all the way up, teams everywhere, teams all interlocking. Everyone's on a team, and no one's not on a team. And I had an executive team that I was first among my peers. So I'm a great believer in teams. Teams are, it's locks in with human nature. We are tribal animals. We feel and operate best when we're in close collaboration with people that we know, trust. And the curse and the blessing of Whole Foods Market was that I had no business background. I mean, I started it with my girlfriend when I was 24 years old and she was 20. We really just didn't have any background, but I was a fast learner and I made a lot of mistakes and then learned from those mistakes.
Did you ever call it family?
Yes, I've always thought, I still think of it as a family. A family is a good metaphor, but it has certain limitations versus teams, because you can have a prodigal brother. You never kick him out of the family, but you might need to kick some people out of the company, off the team. So the family is like, you can't abandon your family. That's a deeper commitment than a team. So that's why that family metaphor breaks down. If you start thinking of it as your family, it's like, you don't have to save everybody from themselves. You can let them go crazy, but just go crazy outside of the team.
Right.
Yeah.
I always say, you can lend money to your brother-in-law knowing he'll never pay it back, and that's fine. But that's
not to your brother. No, I expect my brother-in-law to pay back. You'd lend it to your brother and not expect
Oh, exactly. Okay, brother, right.
So you're writing this book, The Whole Story, and I'm guessing that it's a big mental exercise and emotional exercise for you. And you mentioned getting closure. What type of closure have you gotten and what did you need?
I got to relive the entire 44 years, even before then. As the book starts out, actually, to be full disclosure, the prologue, which is when I'm just turned 22 years old, and I was coming down from a massive LSD trip, and where I'd had experienced the ego death, merged into the one, and guess what? My life changed after that, and I started hitchhiking around Austin when I was coming down, thinking I was still high, but I was. Then I found myself a few miles from my house, and I had to walk back. I run into this philosophy professor that I'd been studying under. He was an existentialist. And I asked him the question I was dying to ask him, which was, Professor Solomon, do you believe there's any, you seem to teach that there's no objective meaning to life except what we give to it subjectively. In other words, life's totally meaningless, but we can pretend that it has meaning and then we'll have a better life. Is that what you really believe? And he said, yes, that's what I believe. And I said, well, if that's what you believe, I don't remember. I just coming down from this merged into the one. If that's really what you believe, I don't see how you could be happy. And he said, yeah, I'm not that happy. and he walked on and I walked on. I still don't know for sure whether or not he was really there or not, but I still had the conversation and it was deeply meaningful. And that changed the direction of my life. That led directly to Whole Foods, which is why I included it in the book. I moved into a vegetarian co-op after that. I wasn't a vegetarian, but became one.
Yeah.
And met my girlfriend that I co-founded the company with, and my life changed forever. Because I wanted happiness. I wanted love. I wanted community. I wanted to live a meaningful life. And so being an existentialist atheist was not what I ultimately decided to be.
Mm-hmm.
And did you get happiness?
Absolutely. Completely.
And I mean, the impact that you made on so many of our lives, and just innovation in an area that hadn't been innovated, and pushing for a healthier lifestyle, which really wasn't happening at the time.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also the moxie of like, we have similar backgrounds. And, I was in a co-op in the 70s and and living in Oregon, lots of communes, all that kind of stuff. But
Were you
none
in
of us.
Were you in Rajneesh's
No, I
commune?
was not a Rajneesh. I found out about the Rajneeshs when I live in Santa Cruz, California now. And for a couple of years, everybody was wearing red. But none of us ever had the energy to like make it into a company. And company was kind of a evil. So how did you philosophically move from like all for one and one for all and to I mean, I guess we're going to touch on conscious capitalism because it's like at some point now you're running a real grocery store.
That's a great question, Patty. And the answer is that when I first started up the business, the first business was called Safer Way.
Yeah.
And then we did that for 2 years, and then we relocated it and changed the name to Whole Foods Market. We merged with another small natural food store. And I'd been in the co-op movement, not only housing co-ops, but I worked at the food co-ops and been a member of food co-ops in Austin as well. I got the nickname of Darth Vader. This was back when Star Wars came out. This was 1978. Star Wars had launched in 76 or 77. And so I was considered to be Darth Vader. I'd betrayed the, food for people, not for profit. But I got into it because I really thought that we didn't have any grandiose plans. Renee and I just wanted to sell healthy food to people, earn a living, and have fun. It was an adventure. Starting a business was an adventure. I remember I worked for the small natural food store called Good Food Company. I came home to the co-op, and before I'd left that day, I was looking around and thought, this is fun. I love this. I could do this. It's within my realm of competence. I could operate a store like this. I know how to do it. And I went to Renee and I said, Renee, what do you think about if we open up our own natural food store? She looked at me, and she's 19 or 20 years old, and she says, oh, Macko Man, that'd be so cool.
Oh, dude.
Let's do that.
That was your nickname, Macko Man?
That was the term of endearment that she gave for me.
I was looking at a quote from that, and you say, business is an infinite game. And
yeah.
I thought about that in terms of what the three of us haven't. Jessica's background is art history or art. She's an artist, right? So she went to art school, and my background's kind of all over the map. But from my hippie roots, once I discovered business, it was the same kind of thing. It was this addicting, like, I can figure this out. And the more I figure out, the more interesting it becomes because the puzzle is so complicated. And kind of back to how you talked about teams and, it's so human. And it's not, we talk about reading all these business books. It's like all the business books I read until, I don't know, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People were about bottom line. And that's not what running a business is about.
Patty, you're absolutely right. This is the big misunderstanding people have about business, which is they think business is about making money. If you go in and you ask people, if you go to a cocktail party or party, you looked around and said, what's the purpose of business? People look at you, like, what do you mean? What's the purpose of business? Everybody knows the purpose of business: make money. That's an odd answer. If you ask, what's the purpose of a doctor? They make a lot of money, but doctors' job is to help people to heal. Teachers educate. Architects design buildings. Engineers construct things. They're all creating value for other people. And so the first lesson about business I learned is business is about creating value for customers. It's creating goods and services that people want to buy, and then they trade with you. And so that's really what business is about. And if you do a good job, maybe there'll be some excess in the trade that leads to some profits, which you can then reinvest in the business and grow it to create even more value. That's what's wonderful about capitalism. It's a perpetual game of increase where the surpluses are reinvested.
And Jessica can speak to this because she's a VC now and working with lots of startups. But I get these questions, this tension between young people want altruism, they want it to have meaning, and I don't know how to articulate that sometimes, but I think there's an essence to every success. Our business at Netflix was always to tell stories.
Right.
That was the truth of what we did, right? And it was about that there are great
Well, you were a
stories.
platform for people to tell stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the storytelling was the mechanism that we use. And we also had the same thing. It's like, well, if a customer's not happy, we don't care. And what was interesting was for us in the early days, we would say, if you want big truck movies, then by God, we're going to give them to you. But it was about like really understanding that relationship between what you intrinsically did and satisfying the customer. So Jess, when you work with all these startup CEOs, so I want to compare, contrast the folks that you work with John with his 40 plus years of experience in business. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that I was not born when a lot of those things were happening when you guys were in your communes, and I just want to
fine.
clarify that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that
everyone.
up.
I know you don't understand.
I don't understand.
You'll
You know what I
never
find-
understand coming down from a trip, Jessica.
You know what I understand? What I understand is that every generation goes through its utopian stages too.
Yeah.
And I say so many people I know in their 20s and 30s are talking about they want to create communities of their friends where they can live together and cohabitate. And I was just with my stepdaughters, my first marriage, and my nephews, and they're all in their 30s and 40s, and they were talking about that very thing. I was just with them over the last week on a vacation with them, and that's their fantasy. And it's like everybody goes through it. Everybody has their desire to create a space that is going to be my parents, they were Depression babies and went to World War II. Their dream of utopia was a suburban house with a garden where their kids could go to a school and be safe. That was their utopian fantasy. So that's how, in some ways, human race makes progress, because the younger generation dreams, they're old dreams, but they're in new context and they help push the human race forward.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think, right now, what I see from an investor perspective is that you have these younger, brave souls who are really trying to look at the world differently and bring value to us in a totally different context that we don't understand. And this whole AI thing, I mean, you talk to some of these founders and their vision for things, and you're like, okay, but it's interesting to see the sort of values and how we're raised and we come up, but like the effect of generation as well, right? And I think you're right. Everybody wants a utopia, and right now, the younger folks are wanting a community, and they don't want to spend time and money on things that don't matter to them and don't matter to the world. They want to spend time and money on things that matter to the people that they surround themselves with and that do good things in the world, right? That's why, there's sort of this whole anti-capitalism movement, with, the millennials and Gen X and Gen Z.
So I'll comment on that. If you study the history of business has been hated by the intellectual class throughout all history. There's never been a time when business has been loved. It's throughout all the literature, and business has always been attacked and criticized. And yet business is the greatest value creator in the world. It creates far more value collectively than all the governments and all the nonprofits put together. Business is what moves the world forward and upward, and why we're making such tremendous progress. I just feel like sometimes the younger generation in particular has no context for how much progress we've made. This is the best time to be alive. I'll give you the entire history of the human race. This is it. This is the best it's ever been. Is it perfect? Far from it. Is there racism? Absolutely. Is there still patriarchy? Sure. But if you look back, it's a lot better today than it used to be.
Mhm.
It's a lot better than when I was young.
Mhm.
And guess what? It'll be better 50 years from now than it is today
Mhm.
because the humans are becoming more conscious. It's not just technology advancing, we're advancing culturally. We're advancing in terms of our values. I'm a great believer that humanity is improving. And it's just a story that I don't think it's told very well.
I agree. I'm so glad that you said that because I don't think a lot of young people understand how much progress we've made and the history of things. Is that what sort of pushed you to think about this conscious capitalism? Like, how did that all come about?
Great question. Yes, that is the real impetus of why I wanted to, because I was doing Whole Foods Market and I realized we had this different kind of culture than, business, greedy, selfish, big
Mhm.
corporations. And I thought, well,
Mhm.
we're not like that. We're a good place to work. I mean, Whole Foods was named one of the 100 best companies to work for 20 consecutive years. We were creating value for all of our stakeholders, value for our customers, for our team members, for our suppliers, for our investors, for the communities that we were part of. And we were very philanthropic. We were like this force for good in the world. And then I began to discover, hey, we weren't alone. There are actually a lot of companies like Whole Foods out there. So it's like we wanted to make capitalism more conscious about purpose. It's more than just making money. The business has a higher purpose. And there are all these interdependent stakeholders. And the business is creating value for all of them. It could create all value for all of them consciously. So the conscious business is doing it consciously, whereas most businesses are creating that value unconsciously. And then it's about creating a kind of healthy cultures where team members flourish in and where leadership is not toxic. Leadership is caring, servant-based leadership that's looking out for the best for all the stakeholders. So there's these healthy versions of businesses that do their business in a more conscious way. And that's what conscious capitalism is about. That's why I got excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So in the book, going back to the closure that you got, what was the hardest part of the book to write for you? And what was the part of the book where you were writing where you got the most joy?
As I said, I got to relive the entire 44 years. And not only does it help me bring closure to it, that was a gas. That was
Uh-huh.
fun. I mean, it's amazing how fast it all went. Really. I mean, it's 44 years seems like a really long time. I can remember so much of it like it was just a few months ago. So there was great joy in reliving it all and putting it all in perspective, thinking back on it. When you think back on it and relive it, you get a greater context for it. You get a greater understanding of yourself. So I learned a lot about myself as I wrote this book. And one thing people don't realize about writing a book, it's a discovery process. Now, sure, I wrote an outline down about every year and all the things I wanted to communicate in it, but I was also learning new things. I was making connections I'd never made before. So that was a joyful experience. And the hardest part for the book for me to write, um, it's always hard to write about your mistakes, but I wanted to be, this is the whole story. So I wanted to be very candid about some of the mistakes that I made and the lessons I learned from them. So probably the shareholder activist phase where Whole Foods they were trying to take us over and put us up for sale to the highest bidder that ultimately led to the sale to Amazon. I was reliving that. And I realized that I got context for that we'd made, how we got to that situation, the mistakes that were made by the leadership that led to Whole Foods Market being attacked by activists and ultimately needing to sell out to Amazon. That was the Amazon sale. As I get asked all the time, do you have any regrets selling to Amazon? And the answer is, I regret the circumstances that made the sale to Amazon our best option. It was our best option. If I had to go do it all over again, I'll always wonder if we'd fought the activists, could we have won? Could we have stayed independent? But it was the judgment of myself and my top team that we probably wouldn't win and that Amazon was going to be the best possible partner we could find. And I think that's proved to be the case. But that was a difficult time to relive, and it was more recent too. So the older days, which I hadn't thought about in a long time, that was fun to relive. That I get to be young again, right? Even if it's just in my memories.
Uh-huh. I had the exact same experience when I wrote my book too, and it was funny because I felt physically felt those emotions again,
Mm.
and I had the
Yes.
same experience about writing about mistakes. It like made my stomach hurt.
Hey, I'll put this thought out there for you. Fear holds us back. Fear is what keeps people from realizing their highest potential in life. And I would say until you master fear, until you can redirect your consciousness, on the other side of fear is love. Fear keeps us trapped. It's and we have to I don't want to say master fear, we have to learn to let it go. It's not
Mhm.
serving us. It's crippling us. It's keeping us from our highest potential that we have in life.
Yeah,
So,
let it go. And I got goosebumps when you said that. And, speaking of no fear and then love, your new company
Yeah.
is called Love Life.
yeah, so let me give you the elevator pitch for Love Life. So we're going to open up on July 9th, we're opening up our first big flagship location. It's in an old Best Buy in LA area, El Segundo on Pacific Coast Highway. It happens to be located in one of Whole Foods Market's most successful shopping centers.
I
And
used to
so
live right there. I know which one you're talking about.
okay. So that's
Yeah.
where we're going to be. We took over the old Best Buy, 45,000 square feet. So we're going to have a healthy food restaurant. We're going to have a fitness center, a gym. We're going to have a spa, lots of
Ooh.
recovery. We're going to have all kinds of alternative practitioners working out of there so there'll be, you'll have acupuncture, physical therapy, chiropractic, spa will have massage. You'll have all kinds of recovery modalities. We're going to have 3 pickleball courts, indoor pickleball courts.
I love pickleball.
Well, anybody that plays pickleball loves it. So you've played it.
Yes. I am
Hey, have you played
addicted.
with your 4-year-old yet?
Yes, we have. He
Exactly,
goes,
and I bet he
yes.
likes it too, doesn't he?
He does. He does. He said he's really good at it, but he's not quite good at it yet.
So the final thing that at Love Life, the most important thing is that it's a medical center as well. But these are doctors that are going to be functional doctors, integrative doctors, lifestyle doctors, medical doctors. And so let me just ask you a question. When do most people go see a doctor?
When they're
When
already
you need
sick.
to.
When you're sick. So we want to change that paradigm. We believe that the doctor's job is to help you never need to see a doctor for sickness. That the doctor's real job is to work with you. We now have the testing results where we can get a really good baseline for people. And then we can set plans for people to reach the highest, healthiest version of themselves. And we can track it. We now can monitor these things with continuous glucose monitors, Aura rings, Apple watches. There's all kinds of breakthroughs that are occurring on measurement. And then you can see your actual progress. You can gamify it. You can track your sleep. I always tell people I stopped drinking alcohol 2 years ago now because of my Apple Watch, because it was reporting on my sleep. I got the auto sleep app on my Apple Watch, and I study it. It's like, okay, how come I didn't sleep well last night? I had a glass of wine. Next night I don't have wine. My deep sleep goes up. My length of sleep goes back up, and I feel better the next day. So it's like I began to realize this alcohol is making me not feel good the next day. I'd rather sleep well. So I gave it up, and that's due to the technology. I just didn't have the consciousness about it until then.
Have you seen the Netflix documentary? Of course, I watch all these of the twin studies and the plant-based diet.
I have that in my Netflix queue.
But
I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard it's great.
What triggered me was they sort of rethink all the metrics around health and body fat and BMI and all of these things, and using technology. It's done at Stanford, actually. So there's a tech, but it's about exactly those kind of things. You should check it out because it's about there's a holistic way of thinking about health now that can be measured in ways that we never used to measure
Exactly.
before.
And so that's just the physical health, but Love Life is going to try to create a new paradigm for wellness and health and track people and help them become the healthiest versions of themselves. But we're also going to be doing emotional and psychological health as well. We think creating a community of people We're going to be doing breath work there. I don't know if either of you've ever done breath work, but it's a very powerful
Only when I was
modality.
having a baby.
Well,
It's helpful.
exactly. But it's
Yeah,
helpful
it
even
was
when you're
helpful.
not having a baby.
No, I find when my whole life when I've been stressed, I go back to Lamaze.
Meditation, yoga, Pilates.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing all this stuff. Everything that has to do with people being the best, healthiest version of themselves is what Love Life's about. And and our vision is to have these centers all around. This is our first one, but it's an infinite game, and I eventually want Love Life to have hundreds and hundreds of locations around the United States and maybe around the world eventually.
I think if anybody can do it, you probably can.
As a leader, starting a brand new business at 70 versus 20 something, what's different about how you approach it?
I mean, there's good things and bad things. I don't have as much energy,
Mhm.
and I don't want to work as hard as I did when I was in my 20s.
God, wasn't it crazy?
But I also have a lot more money, and I have a lot more wisdom. I'm a better leader, and I don't need to make the same mistakes again. The point is that I can guide and lead without putting as much energy out, and get younger people that that are building their careers and want to grow and learn and develop and align with our mission. Well, they'll be the ones that really drive the business forward. But I can help create the culture that they will flourish in. That's the biggest difference.
Give me a specific example of what you will do differently.
What will I do differently? I know how to, for example, I'm an expert in real estate. I don't have to open any bad locations. I'll only open great locations because, I mean, I know what will work and what will not work.
Right.
I now am a better judge of people than I used to be. I can, I will be able to hire and promote better people. And starting with, I actually have got the team that really built Whole Foods. You could call it the Over the Hill gang, but I've recruited all of my old executive team leaders that have retired from Whole Foods, and I made them an offer they just couldn't refuse. I said, guys, I'm going to pay you by the hour, and I'm going to give you a big bunch of stock options. You only work as much or as little as you want to.
That's
I
pretty
want
dream
it.
job.
I want your wisdom, and
I got in a argument, fairly fierce argument one time with our CFO, and he said, well, it didn't start out as an argument, but it was a compliment. He said to me, you're kind of a diva around hiring people. And although I don't agree with you hardly ever about anything, whenever you tell me I should or shouldn't hire somebody, you're just always right. Your track record is impeccable. So now I just have to trust you, even though it does. He was a guy that loved the resume. Did you see the school? This guy, did you see the company? Right. And he's like, so you have a gift, right? And I said to him, as much as I love having you call me a diva, because I really do, because you never say anything nice to me, the truth is we have the same skill, and it's called pattern recognition. And you're just really good with numerals, and I'm really good with people.
Yeah.
Or good
And
analogy.
we realized that. So part of the reason I'm telling you the story was that I think at that moment we both realized we both needed to be better at the other person's skills.
Or you needed to trust each other.
Yeah, and
trust each other.
I trusted him with the numbers, right? And I never thought of myself as very good at it, but I was pretty smart, and so he never thought I was very smart about numbers, but he realized I was pretty smart about, and that trust allowed us to learn a ton from each other. But the crux of it was what our wisdom, our years of experience gave us was pattern recognition, right?
Yeah, but that's also why you create a team.
Yes.
I mean, one of the marks of wisdom as a leader is to recognize what you're good at, but also, even more importantly, what you're not good at. And then make sure that people on your team complement and make up for your weaknesses. And I guess I've had a gift at doing that. I've had enough self-awareness where I knew what I was good at and also knew what I wasn't good at, and made sure I had people on my team that together we had the synergies made the whole greater than the sum of the parts. And that's, I think, that's an unspoken truth about business. The media always focuses on a few individuals, the Reed Hastings, the Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. But even a genius like Elon Musk, I mean, I know Elon, I've met several of his people. He builds great teams.
Yeah. But speaking of gifts, you had mentioned that you wanted to give a gift to the past, the present and the future employees at Whole
Right.
Foods. And I'd like you to give a gift also to the folks tuning in and listening, and to me and Patty, and to the employees now at this new company, Love Life. What's that gift? What's that one thing that we can all just kind of take away from you in terms of how to think about work, how to think about culture, leadership? What do you gift us with?
There's two things everybody wants, and that's the two things that every culture should create. People want purpose. They want to feel like their work is making a difference, that their work is serving other people. It's the job of the leader to be able to see the purpose and be able to communicate it so that it inspires other people. And if you create a culture needs that purpose to emanate and if you give people purpose and you give them love, everybody wants to be cared about. Everybody wants to feel like the business, they're working hard. They want to feel like they're appreciated. They want to feel that they're cared about. And so if you give people purpose and love, you're going to have a happy workplace, most likely. And it's also going to be a workplace that doesn't turn over very much, because people will have loyalty to where they feel at home and appreciated, and where they feel like their work is really making the world a better place. So that's my parting gift. Give those two things.
Oh, I love that. And I
Thank
think you're
Thank you
right.
for that gift. Yeah.
Yes. I love it. I'm gonna keep that gift. I'm not gonna
Well,
return it
the gift,
to the store.
the gift, you didn't take it from me. You just have it too.
Well, we're gonna roll into career confessions, and so we're gonna take a work question from a listener, and we'll ask you to give them a little advice, John, and
Okay.
we'll chime in too. So here's the question: I'm looking for some advice on how to choose the right people to go into business with. I've recently split from a short-lived business venture after having major disagreements with my co-founder when it comes to company values and priorities. How can I ensure I'm hiring a team that shares my values and vision for our company? Looking for tips and strategies to attract like minded individuals who align with our core values. Well, this is the perfect question from what we were just talking about.
Okay. The first thing there is that people, um, you can articulate a purpose. That's important, but that's not as important as you being that purpose yourself. People pay 100 times more to what you do than what you say. So if you're not actually living the purpose, if you're not embodying, that's the word I'm looking for. You have to embody the purpose. Again, we're talking about Elon Musk. Elon Musk embodies the purpose of Tesla and SpaceX and companies he starts up. He is the purpose. He's living it. He's being it. So if he wants to ensure that going to hire the right people that are going to align with their values, first, you have to be very clear what those values are. And people will study you. If you're the leader, are always studying you, looking for hypocrisy, looking for you, talking one way, but doing something else. And because you know what people are looking for? They're also looking for leaders that have integrity.
Mhm.
And if you don't have integrity to the purpose yourself, then you won't find people that are going to follow that purpose. And so if you're living the purpose, but you also have to continue to articulate it all the time. Otherwise, people forget it. You
Right.
have to talk about purpose. And I always would contextualize it. It's like I'd ask questions like, well, what does this have to do with Whole Foods' higher purpose to nourish people on the planet? Does this have anything to do with that? This is just a distraction, right? This is off purpose. So we're not going to do that. So you have to use the purpose to frame up your decisions. If I ever got confused about anything, I would often go back to the purpose and our core values and say, is this aligned with it?
Yep.
And then a lot of times it wasn't. It was like, no, this has taken us off track. We're not going to go this direction.
And you can go down those rat holes so fast.
Yeah.
It's very
Absolutely.
tempting. Oftentimes, if you see a business opportunity, it is like, but it's off purpose.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. No, I love
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And it's off, being off purpose is off strategy.
Yes. That question, though, is really about how do I hire the people that are going to align with it? And guess what? You won't always know when
That's
you hire
right.
people.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If you continuously embody that purpose, you will attract the right kind of people to your business. So
Oh,
that's
I
just very
absolutely
important that the
agree.
leader manifest the purpose, embody it.
I absolutely agree. And I in my current role in being a venture capitalist, I advise many founders and CEOs, and they'll call me and say, "Oh, this just isn't happening. And why isn't it happening?" I said, "Because you're not doing it. You're not embodying it. That's why it's not happening. If you want something to happen in the company, you want a behavior to be real, you want a value to be real, you have to do it. No one else can do it but you."
That's right. You're exactly right.
John, oh my gosh, thank you so much for spending time with us. We wish you the best of luck with the book and with Love Life, and we will be cheering you on from the sidelines. And if we can be helpful at any time, you just let us know.
Thank you. I'll make a final commercial. The Whole Story, Adventures in Love, Life, and Capitalism is on sale at Amazon now.
I already pre-ordered mine.
It's an adventure story. It is. It reads like a novel. It's just one adventure after another. Because I've told stories that never been told about Whole Foods. I mean, there are 4 coup attempts to get me thrown out in over the years. I beat them all back, but they're all there.
I can't wait, especially if it starts out with like an LSD trip. I feel like it's gonna be the best book ever.
Thanks for listening to TruthWorks. This episode was produced and edited by Megan Hayward and Mick Finnegan. Thank you to Kathleen Speckert and the whole Edit Audio team.